Welcome back to Lucore Automotive Services. It's not all hot rods, race cars, cool trucks that we work on. Sometimes we work on old turds too. This is a 2.8 V6 1984 Ford Bronco II. If that's the kind of thing you like, we're about to work on it. Stick around. So this is an 84 Bronco 2.8 V6 carburetor, mechanical fuel pump, power steering, no air conditioning. Pretty much a base utilitarian vehicle. I'm actually surprised to see it. I haven't seen one of these in years, let alone worked on one. This one's got brand new tires on it, so somebody's got high hopes of me bringing it back to life. It was towed in here the other day for a no run cranks no start situation, and so I poured a little fuel down its gullet and it fired right off. So I'm like, all right, well, it's not getting any fuel. So I did a fuel pressure test. Sure enough, no fuel pressure. So I'm gonna put a fuel pump on it. They're not too bad on these. Basically, I dropped the power, it's 4 bolts to drop the power steering pump out of your way. And then it's 2 bolts and 2 hoses, well, 1 line and 1 hose, 2 bolts, and then the fuel pump's off. So the problem is I'm gonna be covered up to my armpits in grease because this thing's filthy inside. But that's all right, that's what we do. Normal stuff, pays the bills. The fuel pump on this guy is right down there, and you probably can't see it because everything in this general area from all the way around there is covered in goo. But I would expect nothing less. It is, after all, a Ford. Anyway, we got a hard line. It's a 5/8 fitting. Luckily, since the power steering pump's leaking all over everything, the line is well preserved, coming off without a hassle. We like not having hassles. It's always a bonus. Grab an open-end wrench. It's free. We're probably just going to cut that hose when it's time. And then, what is it, a couple more 13s. Looks like. Those are not easy to get to. We'll figure out something crafty. So the 1984 to 1986 Bronco IIs came with the Cologne V6, which was a German-built V6 for Ford. It was running quite a few cars from 1974 all the way up through 1986. It had a earth-shattering 115 brake horsepower produced with the 2-barrel carb. Pretty reliable engine. Not a huge power builder. This truck probably makes, I don't know, 80 horse to the wheel. But whatever, if it gets you there, it gets you there, right? We're gonna whittle away and get this fuel pump done so that we can pull it into the shop and check out and see what else this old turd needs. I'm gonna guess, ouch, I guess a fuel pump isn't the only thing this 40-year-old car is gonna need. Man, the German engineer was giggling when he designed this fuel pump sticking out the side of the engine block. He's like, those silly Americans, we'll get them for World War II and World War I. I'm gonna put this fuel pump here. Some guy's gonna be like, that's crazy. Why would you put that there? The good news is I got the top bolt loose. I can't get this bracket out of the way because the bolts have become one with the cylinder head and the cylinder block. So unfortunately, pulling this bracket out of the way, which is the right way to do it, I'm not gonna break two bolts off, one in the head and one in the block that is the main support structure for the power steering pump. So I'm gonna have to work around that because I don't want to deal with broken bolts in a 38-year-old vehicle. The engineer who put this fuel pump here is not my friend, but I finally got to the bottom bolt, and luckily for me they're not a very high torque bolt, and they're covered in 30 odd years of power steering fluid, grease, road schmutz. I got to the lower fuel pump bolt by pulling out the oil pressure sender, and I'm turning that bolt the wrong way because I'm trying to talk and chew gum at the same time. So I just tightened that back up. That was silly. After you get the oil pressure sender out, you got to take out the oil pressure sender riser or spacer, which gets the oil pressure sensor out to a place where it can be installed because it doesn't fit in the allotted space. It's not often that you'll see me laying on my back in a parking lot working on a customer's car. I have a full functioning shop with a bunch of lifts in it. Unfortunately right now we can't get parts for a bunch of them, so we're gonna have to just put them all back together and push them outside because I only need to lay on my back working on a car for about 5 minutes before I realize how much I don't like laying on my back working on cars. That's alright, we'll get there. I hate the engineer who did this. If I see this guy on a road somewhere, I'm going to kick him square in the nuggets. I think I need to clean up a little bit. This thing is gross. Charge extra for cleanup. I'm going to put a dab of grease on this because it'll help hold my gasket in place. And a dab of grease on that because it'll help hold this in place in the engine. Assuming I can find the hole. Hey, I found the hole. Place the new mounting gasket onto the surface of the pump, holding it in place while starting bolts through pump flange and gasket. That would be really easy on the assembly line when it's not between the frame rails of the truck. Oh well. A little dab of grease helps hold the gasket on there. Pump section goes up. What do I do with my bolt? Here's my upper bolt. I'm going to put the upper bolt in first because gravity. Let's go ahead and start our lower bolt. Alright, so I've got my lower fuel pump bolt in. Man, Lower fuel pump bolt is in. Oil pressure sender extension is in. I decided to go ahead and get a new oil pressure sensor because pretty much most of the time when I take one out and put it back in, it ends up leaking. So to avoid having any regrets there, I'm going to go ahead and put a new oil pressure sender in it. I also have a new fuel filter coming for it. So we'll finish wrapping everything else up on this, and we'll get those done. 2.8 V6. What do you bet we can make one of these build 200 horse? I gotta believe you gotta be able to. I mean, there's 115 brake from the factory. Think we can add another 85 horsepower to this thing? 200 at the crank? And it would take a bit of work. Maybe a 4-barrel carb, 4-barrel intake, headers, port and polish the head, gasket match for airflow. I think we might be able to make one make 200. That might even be on our list of things to do. You never know at this place. Boring old 2.8 and a Ford Bronco. What can we do with it? Right now we're going to put the water pump back, or the power steering pump back on. Do you want to see where this thing's at? This thing is in a precarious place. Down in there in its nice little cubby. I think if I was to do it again, I would pull the motor mount nut off on this side and jack the engine up. Shift it over to give myself a little more room. But I don't think it really matters. I think no matter what you do, doing a fuel pump on one of these is going to be less than a pleasant experience. One of the nice things about updating your oil pressure sender from this style of sending unit to this style of sending unit is you can install this one from the front. It makes it a lot easier than trying to wrench one on from the back side. Because this one, you have to use a wrench on the back side, and it's, as you saw, it's kind of hard to get to. So, worth the upgrade. And this one won't leak as soon as you put it back in. The other one probably will. Stick that on real quick. Be right back. Let's give this old girl a little jump start. Oil pressure sender's on, fuel filter's on, fuel line's tight. Oh, that vacuum line probably used to go there. Yep, it did. Might need to fix that. Somebody done broke that. Fire in the hole! Holy cow, I fixed something. How'd that happen? Oh, fail. Well, let's check our pickup. Make sure we got fuel. Fuel pump should have picked it up by then. Oddly enough, the fuel gauge is reading empty. So we're going to throw some fuel in it too. It has a gas lock. It even works. Alright, refuel take 2. With quite possibly the worst design fuel necks ever conceived. Because all it does is make you spill fuel. But they make you spill less fuel. No, they don't, because they don't work. Because the end needs to be at least that long to get into the hole to put the fuel where it needs to go. It's just dumb. Need a smaller funnel. There we go. Now we're cooking. That looks like some good fuel. Still not looking great. Well, she's running when I bottle feed it. I think we're going to be putting fuel lines in it from the fuel tank. Hard lines and rubber lines from the fuel tank all the way up to the front. More than likely it's sucking the air through the straw. But hey, it does run. That's a good sign. It's a good start. See what happens from there. Well, I don't know if this was entertaining, but hopefully it was at least educational. We'll let you know what happens with this. The next step would be bringing it back to life, I guess. Call it that. At any rate, click like, subscribe, leave us a comment below. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you soon. This is actually running longer than I thought it was gonna. I thought it was gonna die like right when I finished my thing. Maybe it's actually sucking fuel. Is it? I fixed something. It still needs fuel lines. But at least they're not sucking air. Now I can put it on the rack. Really figure out what's wrong with it. Horsepower, pure righteousness. I'm not really sure I want to let people know that I work on these things. I have a parking lot full of these. Yikes. $20 is $20.